Andy, it's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Phil, and hello to everyone and welcome to our webinar. So I think we have probably two distinct audience groups joining us here today who we're targeting this webinar at. And so for those of you who are sales leaders and you're looking at how we can make our sales managers better coaches in order to help improve the performance of our selling organization, I welcome you. For those of you who are sales managers, those of you who are looking for real, practical, tangible ways to improve how you coach your sales organization or your selling teams, I should say, I want to offer a special welcome to you and everyone else who is keen to get information on being a great sales coach. You've come to the right place. We're going to spend the next hour or so exploring the top 10 tactics for sales coaching. And I want to start by talking about why. I think it's really important that at the beginning of every learning journey, we get clear on what our why is. So the why that we're going to look at now is, why does sales coaching matter? I can tell you some of the performance outputs that we see from, consistently great sales coaching. The benefits far outweigh the effort. But for some of us, we're at the beginning of that journey going, well, why do I need to coach? I'm a really good manager. You know what? I'm on target. My team's performing well. Why do I need to be a better coach? And we'll talk about coaching versus management and how there's a distinct difference between those two in just a minute or so. And then some of you may be, you know what? I am under pressure right now. I'm constantly behind budget. I'm constantly behind target. I've really got to improve. I don't really have the time to go and divert to becoming a great sales coach. Well, I would argue that now is the time to become a great sales coach if you're underperforming, because by taking what we're going to share today and putting that into practice quickly, you will start to see, in some cases, depending on which of the tactics you put into play, immediate benefit and immediate uplift in terms of the outputs of your sellers. Then there's some tactics that take a while, but by consistently investing the time and putting that into play, I can tell you, as being a practitioner in this space, it works. But it will all come down to why you should do it. So why does it matter? So in RAIN, we research top performance in selling. And what we do is we codify what that top performance looks like, and then we build that into world-class IP to help sellers and sales leaders take that research, bring it to life in a meaningful way, and improve their sales performance. So let's look at coaching. Let's look at sales coaching. So we, in our top performing sales organization research, we found a few startling things when we studied top performance. And we looked at here what elite performers, the best of the best in terms of sales coaching versus top performers versus everyone else. And we found that sales managers are effective in getting maximum performance from their sellers, and 63% of those in terms of realizing maximum performance were in that elite category. And then management maximizes and prioritizes the time sales managers spend coaching. As you can see, the elite performers spend more time than the rest in coaching. So let's talk about coaching versus managing. If I think I'm a really good manager, doesn't that make me a good coach just by performing those duties of great management? There is a key difference between effective sales coaching and effective sales management. Coaching is about engaging directly with sellers, forming that two-way collaboration, that dialogue, that player-coach sort of dynamic. And the topics are the shared responsibility of both the seller and the manager. So once again, coaching is about that synergy, that alignment together, working as a team. Whereas as we see managers, you're focusing when you're managing on organizing, executing, and monitoring the driving of performance. Your focus is on the seller's affect manager's vision, decision-making, and action through the feedback, through the guidance, through the reaction to their performance. And management topics are the responsibility of the manager. And so the two are quite different. And we need to be clear on that distinction. Just because you manage well may not mean you coach well. In fact, coaching may not form any part of the way in which you manage. So it's really important. And then we've got to look at, well, what coaching isn't. I think we have these ideas in terms of what coaching is, but what coaching isn't. When we look at how we look at a couple of things, we're going to share a couple of things in terms of what the Harvard Business Review talks about. When thousands of managers were asked to coach someone, they simply provided the other person with advice or a solution. And they regularly heard comments like, first you do this, or why don't you do this? So think about that. What's the dynamic in terms of that relationship? I would define that as mentoring, as someone who you go to and seek advice from. Whereas with coaching, it is quite different. And then when we look at what else they found that telling people what we think of their performance doesn't actually help them thrive or excel. Telling people how we think they should improve actually hinders their learning. Coaching is is about releasing a person's potential to maximize their own performance. It's about helping them learn rather than teaching them. It's about helping them learn rather than teaching them. And our job as great sales coaches is to create a dialogue that leads to awareness that then triggers action. So we're helping move people into the learning zone through those great dialogues. We're helping them build awareness around their own performance. And then we're inspiring through really good coaching to take action on those areas that they need to improve. If we just tell them, we often see very little response. But if we coach them, we often see a massive shift. And you look at the ownership in terms of who owns those ideas. When you're telling something to someone, the ownership of those ideas is with you. When you're coaching someone effectively to create those ideas, the ownership of those ideas is with them. That's the difference of what we're looking for here in terms of mentoring and managing versus coaching effectively. So let's share what we think are the top sales coaching tactics that are going to help you improve your performance. And as I said, we've got a really strong focus on practical application. We're going to share with you what our research says, and then we're going to share with you practical tactics, ways, tools, and methods that you can take from here today and immediately put them into practice in your sales coaching environment. So tactic number one, what we found was top performers are 51% more likely to have regular ongoing schedule of coaching, 51%. So, and by the way, the research that we're referring to here, you'll see down the bottom, is the top performing sales manager. And that report has just been released. I've got the copy of it right here. It is hot off the press, our most recent research. It is one of the, I mean, I love all of our studies, but I think this is it is game changing in some of the outputs that you'll read from that. Tremendous learnings in it, and we're referencing that as we go through today. Strongly recommend, if you haven't got a copy, which is free, of course, that you grab a copy through the download either now or at the end of our webinar today. So top performers set a regular ongoing coaching rhythm. This is what we found. So what does that look like? Here are some practical ways in terms of how you might bring that to life. So it's a structure. The rhythm is defined with a structure of meetings and interactions at both a team level and an individual level. So there's daily meetings, there's quick check-ins, there's huddles. That might be a quick check-in, 10 minutes a day, offers some tactical sales coaching opportunities in terms of the timing. You've got your weekly meetings. You know what I find a lot of sales managers do is they run really good meetings for themselves. Great sales meetings are ones where we provide opportunity for everyone to walk out feeling some sort of level of development, some sort of level of improvement, and mostly they feel like we're progressing. So instead of using meetings to capture information from our sellers and make it a one-way dialogue, think about the structure of those weekly meetings and challenge yourself. What is a way in which we can not just drive accountability, but create new value and a development opportunity each week for the sellers who attend? I think you'll find when you get your sales meetings right, it is one of the most anticipated, one of the most welcomed meetings that sellers like to attend. When it's all about the sales manager just gleaning information, it's one of the meetings they seek to avoid. So think about that and think about what we've got on screen here. We want to drive accountability. We want a win lab. Win lab is about identifying ways, capturing all the best ideas from the sales team about helping individual sales opportunities advance towards win. So we use this as an opportunity to collaborate and co-create new ideas and value that will help advance sales opportunities. And then we've also got, in terms of our sales meeting, an opportunity, as I said, to define ways in which we can develop each of our individual team members through that meeting. We've got bi-weekly meetings where we might do the pipeline review. That might be a little bit more pool of simple information. We then have core coaching one-on-one. You might do that every fortnight, depending on your sales cadence, the rhythm, the deal size, the timing it takes in terms of your opportunity flow. You might do that weekly, you might do that bi-weekly, but you need to do it. One-on-one coaching is a great opportunity to develop people rapidly. And then monthly meetings where we review plans, results, accountabilities, and then quarterly meetings where we set and define more of our strategy in terms of the quarters, the halves, and the year ahead. And then there must be opportunities where we can stop. And by the way, you can do it both virtually and face-to-face for those of you who are still working away from an office or who don't have an office at all. There are team building meetings that you can structure that provide development opportunities, which you can run both virtually and face-to-face if you're back in the office. So if we look at what top performers do, they define that ongoing coaching rhythm and have a structure of meetings to be able to accommodate that. The next thing they do is lead valuable coaching conversations. Top performers are 40% more likely to be skilled in leading valuable coaching meetings. What does that look like? Well, we're going to give you a very simple formula that any of you can apply that has, it's very simple to understand. It's very simple to execute. Now, remember, I'm saying simple, not easy, right? The simple part is that it's digestible. It's easy to put into play. The part that takes the doing is actually making the time and executing. So the first thing that we can do in leading valuable coaching conversations is understand what has the seller done? Spend a few minutes checking in what's up and what are the issues that have come up, and let's do some analysis in terms of where they're heading towards and what they've already achieved in lag and lead and lag results. What are they going to be doing? So it's really important to discuss those important topics. And this is the opportunity where we can really coach. And if we're asked questions around what we think, what we would do, we have the opportunity to advise. Remember, they're two separate roles, coaching, advising. When we're asked for that information and we want to give that information, we need to know we're in an advisory role. We're in a mentoring or advisory role. And that is different to coaching. Coaching is where we ask questions. And we form that dialogue of really good question asking. So we shift that learning opportunity to the seller so that they come up with the ideas themselves. Because if they come up with those ideas, those actions, they will own them. The likelihood of them executing grows exponentially. And then we want to collaborate to solve problems. The less you can be providing ideas and encouraging through really good questioning the seller to create those ideas, the more effective this doing part is in your coaching conversation. And then we need to get clear on, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to take these ideas? How are we going to take this learning and convert it into action? So we want to spend the last 10 minutes setting an action plan and making any suggestions that we think will help in the execution of that plan so that the result is more consistently realized. Last thing we want to do is ask what help they're going to need. And I think this is a very forgotten question at the end of our coaching conversations. Is we've gotten to a point, we've asked really good questions. They've got clear actions. They've got clear idea in terms of that path ahead. They're owning that. And then they think they're on their own. Really important. By the way, the more you ask this question over time, because you're providing more consistent and effective coaching conversations and coaching outputs, the less help they'll ultimately require from you. So don't think by offering it that you're going to be bombarded with help, with requests for help, and you're going to need to spend all your time helping them. Actually, it's the inverse. It's the opposite to that. So that is did, doing, do. That is a very simple formula for executing really valuable coaching conversations with your sellers. All right, Phil, let's get some interaction with the audience. I'm really keen to understand what your view is. Obviously, we found out through our latest research in terms of top performing sales managers. But what do you think is the number one skill of top performers and the greatest difference between top performing sales managers and other managers? What do you reckon is the difference? Is it coaching sellers to build selling skills? Is it leading valuable sales team meetings? I've talked about the importance of that already. What about motivating sellers for high productivity and performance? Where does that sit? Is that number one? What about helping sellers solve problems and challenges? Is that the number one skill of top performers? And is it the greatest difference between top performing sales managers and other managers? Let's see what the audience says. Well, leading valuable sales meetings is not really getting much response there. It is looking like a pretty close tie between coaching sellers to build selling skills and helping sellers solve problems and challenges. And coming up on the inside is motivating sellers for high productivity and performance. We're going to give that another 10 seconds. If you have not inputted, I can see a lot of buttons being clicked there. Get your thoughts in and let's see what the research says. All righty, give it one more second. I think we can get to, well, we're over 75. That's good. All right. Thank you, Phil. Let's share those results there. Okay, a lot of us are thinking coaching sellers to build selling skills. No, Andy, we're at a sales coaching webinar. Why wouldn't that be number one? And then we have helping sellers solve problems and challenges. And then coming in third was motivating sellers for high productivity and performance. Let's just drop that off screen now and let's have a look at what our research told us. Well, number 3 in our top sales coaching tactics is motivating sellers to top performance. And what we found is top performers are 71% more likely to have a manager who excels at motivating sellers for high productivity and performance. Just got that coming back on my screen. That's all right. I've just taken it off now. 71% in our research showed of those top performers are more likely to have a manager who excels at motivating sellers for high productivity and performance. So that sits within coaching, right? That sits within coaching. So in terms of why it was number one and the number one skill and the biggest differentiator is because it made the greatest impact. So 71% of top performers are more likely to have a manager who excels at motivating sellers for high productivity and performance. So how do we do that? That's great. We understand the research. That's the output. That was the number one skill and the biggest differentiator. What and how do I bring that into practice in my sales coaching? So there's 3 things that we have identified in how top performers motivate their sellers for that top performance. First is to motivate. And so that motivated, you know, as we've put here, there's a range of different things here. And by the way, if you really want to deep dive on our research, on our experience of the authors in terms of how they brought top performance to life in a really challenging circumstance in their life and actually thrived through adversity, I'd strongly suggest you pick up a copy of the book, Not Today. It is a read that will take you on a journey of learning really quickly, and it's an amazing story and things that will definitely show you how to improve your productivity. And so what we talk about in that book is we talk about calendaring investment time, looking at our goals and actually making a commitment, not just to do it once and not to set those goals, but to do it regularly and revisit them. Look at goals at quarterly and monthly objectives and stay focused on those goals. And as things and if things do change, come back and reset those goals as we go. And that's not just personal goals, that's professional goals as well. And the translation of that motivation into the selling environment is a glove fit. It's a very easy dovetail. The other thing we talk about in terms of motivating is morning routine. So think about that with your sellers. Your sellers turn up each day and it's the same old routine. And, you know, that morning part of the day, you're seeing that it just blends into that middle part of the day, which blends into the end part of the day. And do your sellers leave each day feeling, you know what, I could have done more. Hey, I missed this. Hey, I set myself up for fail each day. A lot of that tracks back to how we set ourselves up in our morning routine. What is your morning routine? What is your seller's morning routine in order to maximize the opportunities that are presented to us each day, both personally and professionally in the selling environment? How much negativity exists in your selling environment? Are we always telling sellers, hey, this is a problem, that needs to be solved, we're not doing this, we're not doing that? Or is there positive, both self-talk for you as a sales leader, as a sales manager? And therefore, is there positive self-talk going on in your individual sellers? Are they reinforcing positive things in their thinking each and every day? Is the balance of thought in the positive or the negative? And you can often walk into a sales team like we do often, and you can tell within minutes what that positive self-talk is, both at an individual and at a team level. So what level of or balance and shift in terms of positivity versus negativity exists in you, yourself, and your team? And then we say 3, 2, 1, go. One of the greatest things, particularly in selling, we're doing that hard stuff. For those of you in prospecting, you'll know what I'm talking about. The hardest thing is to craft that value message and send that email to get that appointment, or pick up that phone and make that call in order to introduce yourself and provide a valuable reason why someone should take a meeting with you. But it also provides the greatest opportunity for procrastination. And so one of the things that motivates people is the willingness to act and the ability for you to use 3, 2, 1, go to get into action, to really switch your subconscious mind, leading into your conscious mind taking over and moving you forward can be incredibly motivating. So the ability to motivate sales and top performance, there's just a few tips that you can take in order to be able to do that. As I said, if you're really interested in deep diving into this topic, I would strongly recommend for both personal productivity and team productivity that will also give you the know-how in terms of motivation, that you pick up that book, Not Today. So the other 2 areas in terms of motivating sellers for top performance that we won't deep dive on here are both focus and then supporting them to execute. And I think I've covered I've offered a couple of ideas on those areas already. Number 4 in our top 10 tactics is helping sellers build a goal and action plan. So 41% of top performers are more likely to excel at helping sellers build meaningful goal and action plans. What does that mean? Well, we have a goal setting worksheet. You can just pick that up. I'm not going to deep dive on that because it's fairly straightforward. It is easy to understand. It's easy to execute. I'm not talking simple this time. I'm talking easy. All the hard work's done for you. It has 5 sections. It teaches you how to set goals, how to define an action plan in order to achieve them, what habits that you have that are supporting of the achievement of that goal versus what are the habits that are getting in your way that need to change, how we track our time and what does TIME mean in the breakdown of each, and how we help avoid ourselves getting distracted along the pathway to achieving our goals. Number 5 is that top performers prioritize productivity in both themselves and their team. There's a couple of these I've pulled out. It's quite small on screen for some of you. So I've pulled out some of the ones that I have seen have the biggest impact in both people becoming more effective sales coaches and being more productive and achieving higher performance themselves as sales managers and sales coaches, and then being able to be that example that therefore passes on into their selling teams. One of the things that I see from top performers day in, day out is they are incredible at maximizing the opportunity of the same seconds and the same minutes that everyone else has in the day, and they get the most done in that time that is available to them. they're hyper productive because of the way they think about the dissection and the use of their time each day. They never let time happen to them. They always happen to the time and use it in the most productive way. The other thing that I see them doing that jumps out from that research is they don't react to others' agendas. They're very clear in terms of what their mandate is, what their objective is, what they as a sales leader are going to do, what their team is going to execute on, and they protect that focus and don't react to other people's agenda. They align to others, they don't react to it. They change habits when needed. This is a big one. Lots of your sales performance in your team right now, if they're not performing, will have to do with the habits that they're executing on. Those habits form, and it's not a matter of getting down on yourself or getting upset. It's a matter of rapidly identifying which of the habits that you have as a sales leader, as a sales manager, that are serving you versus ones that are not. And I guarantee you, if you look at the ones that aren't serving you, they're probably alive in your team of sellers and they're not serving them as well. So we've got to have the courage to address which of the habits that I'm turning up and executing each day need changing. By the way, one place to start is your morning routine. If you wake up of the day and you can see a clear direction to maximizing the time available, so planning out your day, to making sure that those things that are not important are not focused on versus those things that are important, get all of your time and focus, that might be the habit that needs to change, is prioritization of what's important versus what might be, urgent or time bound that might get in the way, but it's not important. So defining what is important and maintaining your focus on it. And by the way, when you're focusing on it and you're talking about it and you're seen to be executing on it, watch what happens to your team. You are the quickest way as a sales coach to change those unproductive habits of your team by exempling them. And they plan and manage their time. I have a mentor of my own who doesn't really tell me anything. And that's what makes them a great mentor. I just have to watch them. And I acutely watch them, just like your sellers watch you each and every day, either through the virtual lens or through the direct lens if you happen to be in an office. They're always watching. And they're always looking at what do the best do. And if they don't have any other example of what the best is, you are it. Whether you like it or not, if you have taken that role of sales leader, of sales manager, they are watching you. We see it time and time again. So how you plan and manage your time each day will directly impact how your sellers do the same. If you're really good at it, guess what? Through the questions you ask, you can coach it as well. So I think of all the things we just looked at in that research there, these are the 4 that really stand out that I see those who are top performers in this sales management space, who also exhibit really great sales coaching skill, get the most out of every day. They plan and manage their time. They have the courage to identify which of those habits need changing and then support their team to do the same. And they have a very clear agenda in terms of what they want to achieve, and they align to other agendas. They never react to it. They lead, in other words. Let's have a look at number 6. Tactic is advise on specific sales solutions. Top performers are more likely than the rest to excel at coaching sellers to lead masterful conversations, maximize deal wins, grow accounts, and fill the pipeline. Once again, we see this all the time in the organizations we have the privilege of working with. And here's a couple of things that I can give you. And I wanted to put together a practical list of what are the things I can do in advising on specific sales situations in my sales coaching. When it comes to leading masterful conversations, what we want to be looking at is any of those 3 would be a great starting point for you in terms of being able to execute on this tactic in your sales coaching conversations. When was the last time you engaged in an inspection of your sellers' needs discovery preparation? For a lot of sellers, the preparation for a needs discovery, and not a good one, is when they open the car door and they walk between their car and the reception, the welcome area of an office of the place they're going to meet. Or the preparation happens when they look up at their calendar and they go, oh, 5 minutes till I have that that Zoom meeting or that Teams meeting with that new customer. Right, what am I going to ask them? Maybe I'll do a bit of research. I'll jump on Google. And it happens in seconds and it happens in minutes instead of actually being a meaningful preparation. Guess what? Buyers tell us. Buyers tell us all the time, one of the greatest things that's most obvious when sellers turn up for a needs discovery is they're unprepared. And the immediate feeling that a buyer has when they can tell a seller is unprepared is they don't care. They're not really here for me. They're not really here for our organization. They're here to sell us something. And what we know in terms of becoming a value-driving sales organization through having value-driving sales leaders and value-driving sellers is a lot of it comes down to how we show up. And how we show up has everything to do with how we prepare to show up. And I see a lot of sales leaders and a lot of sales coaches never spend any time in some of these most critical areas because they think, oh, they're experienced, they know what they're doing. Do they? Just because a seller has 20 years of experience, is that really 20 years of experience, or is it 1 year of experience multiplied 20 times? Because we see that the world and the needs of buyers is constantly growing, and we see the challenge is a lot of sellers keep repeating what they've always done, and they don't match that level of growth or change that their buyers are experiencing. They turn up and often they are redundant, they are irrelevant, they are obsolete before they've even picked up the phone, jumped on a Teams, or walked through that door. A lot of that has to do with how they prep and show up, what questions they ask in leading those masterful conversations rather than the PowerPoint presentation that's 56 slides long that the buyer doesn't really care about because they don't think that you care about them, because the minute you're into presentation mode in conversations, it's not a conversation anymore. It's just a data dump. And gone are the days where we turn up like that, and we need to be leading masterful conversations with really good questions. They visually and powerfully position, communicate, and confirm needs of the buyer. How are your team doing that? Great opportunity for you to deep dive in your sales coaching conversations. Next thing is they maximize deal wins. This is another time where I see a lot of sales coaches not spend much time on this space. Top performers spend a lot of time on this space. They qualify deals effectively. They win lab. They're constantly helping sellers get the best ideas to advance their sales opportunities towards win. They're identifying and analyzing who are the key stakeholders in those target accounts that we want to penetrate, in those target accounts that we want to grow and develop, because we can see 2, 3, 4x of opportunity within inside those accounts. They understand and help their sellers position value, right? You can win all the business you want, but if you are positioned as value, you start transitioning yourself from a potential transactional vendor or supplier to a partner. And that partnership is often the foundation of that partnership is often based in the perception of value that the buyer is getting from you. So understanding and how we position value is a really great area that we can focus our sales coaching efforts on. And obviously one there is competitive positioning. How are we going to position competitively? What else can we advise on? Growing accounts. One of the most common things that we see is account plans. And account plans, when we go in, this is what account planning looks like. And some of you might sit there and laugh and go, "Ha, that's me," but often the case it is. A lot of the rest, right? A lot of the sellers who sit in that category of the rest, not top performers. Here's what their account planning is like. Yep, my boss asked me to do account plan. I've got six key accounts. At the beginning of each year, I'm going to go and write the plan. I'm going to fill in the blank spaces because no one likes a blank space. And I'm going to write that, and I'm going to write, that's a great plan, and I'm going to submit my 6 account plans, and right, bosses off my back. Account planning's done for the year, and off we go. And guess what? Think about one of your major accounts. Think about an account that your company, that kind of superstar account. They're the marquee account. They're the big name. Or think about an account that is in your team's portfolio right now that you think, wow, we really could and should be doing more business with. And I want you to think about that account right now. I want you to think about, in the last 3 months, do you reckon anything's changed in their business? Do you reckon external market factors? So let's just look at what's happening in the world right now. A lot of us are facing significant inflation changes. What does that mean? Costs go up, and the cost of goods go up means the cost of me to do business has begun to change. Do you think that might change how they buy, what their needs are, how they're going to approach things, what they need to do in order to combat, prepare, pivot? Every time there is a change in your accounts, need evolves. And so it's really interesting that a lot of us take an annual planning approach to account management and I dare say account development. And yet we only revisit that plan every year, whilst often, whether they like it or not, our customers' world, our buyers' world is constantly changing. So we are presented with amazing opportunities through the frequency of our sales coaching to provide account development opportunities in these conversations that we're having across any of these areas. Doing more effective research. How do we not just establish, but in some cases deepen key relationships or identify relationships we don't have that we need to develop? Develop growth plans, not management plans, not account management plans. Growth plans for the account. Identify which of those accounts can we grow, and let's use our coaching time to effectively define plans and strategies that we're going to execute on. And then we obviously can define and look at new ways that we can, or new value that we can bring to the accounts, and of course, support the execution of these ideas within the account. Advising on sales situations, last one is fill the pipeline. I know all of us want to help our team fill our pipeline more. Another great topic to focus our sales coaching efforts on. What are some of the things that we can do? How do we create and refine value messages? What does that mean? When we're prospecting, we've got to earn the right for that meeting, not just expect that we pick up the phone or craft some really verbose email through LinkedIn and send that out and voila, we get a meeting. There's very few of us that have in-demand products or services like that, where we literally can simply say our name or say something that we offer and we suddenly get a meeting. Most of us have to work really hard to earn that right for that meeting. And that all begins with the messages we create around the value that we can bring to that customer, giving reason for them to give us a meeting. So how do we create refined value messages? How do we build attraction campaigns so that we get in and we can not just get the meeting, but get the meeting with the right people to start those conversations that will lead to uncovering opportunity within inside our target accounts. Defining a prospecting cadence is a great sales coaching topic. Why? It is the number one thing that sellers will escape from most. Why? It's hard. Prospecting is hard. A lot of us don't like to prospect, but guess what? When the lead source dries up, that really is when a seller is tested, because they've got to go and generate their own leads to create their own opportunities and conversations. So prospecting cadence is a key one that we can focus on in our sales coaching, and then looking at new sales opportunities and evolving them from conceptual discussions into forming of opportunities through those sales coaching conversations. Next is sales coaching tactic number 7, creating a seller development plan. Top performers, 37% more likely to excel at coaching sellers to build sales skills. How do we do that? How do I, in my sales coaching conversations, develop what is a seller development plan? Well, I'm glad you asked, because we're just going to show you an example of one right here that you could take and put into practice right away. So you could take a screenshot of this right away. Not saying I encourage you to do that, because that's sharing of IP. Anyway, we're here to share the IP. I'm only joking. Take what you will. We are a generous brand. We're here to make sure that you get practical ways that you can improve your sales coaching outputs straight away today. So here you go on the screen, left to right: skills, knowledge, and attributes. What are the skills? What are the knowledge? And what are the attributes that we want each individual seller? This is by seller. This is not a team focus. This is by individual seller. You need to answer these questions. What are the skills, knowledge, and attributes that are going to be part of their development? What is their current proficiency? What is the desired level of proficiency that we would like them to have in that? And if you can include by when, that's always a good thing. Having a deadline for something often helps motivate and keep us focused in terms of the outcome, rather than just saying it's an ongoing thing. Think about by when are we looking at improving our proficiency across the skills, knowledge, and attributes in that particular area. What's our plan to develop? So does that, how are we going to develop them beyond just having conversations in our sales coaching events? What are some other things that we need to do in order to train and develop them? Is it just me as a sales coach, or are there other people that we can leverage in terms of developing this individual in our sales coaching conversations? And then how are we going to test the proficiency? Rather than just say, well, there's knowledge to confirm that they know what to do. Do they know how to do it? And how are we going to test for that proficiency? And so in here, we've just given you some examples. If we're going to be looking at that skill area of influencing a buyer's agenda, then we're going to need to be doing some core reviews. How are you doing that? How is that showing up? How is the buyer responding, indicating that we have been able to influence their agenda? So making sure that we test for that proficiency is critically important. Number 8, in building specific sales skills, only 33% of top performing managers strongly agree their manager excels at coaching sellers to build sales skills. Wow. There is the same survey question that we shared in number 7, but this time we've honed in on the sellers' responses, because we study both sales managers, sales leaders, and sellers as well. Coaching sellers to build sales skills is the number 1 key driver of sales manager effectiveness. Let me just repeat that. Coaching sellers to build sales skills is the number 1 key driver for sales manager effectiveness. So even the best performing sellers don't believe their managers do a good job at coaching to build sales skill. So there's a lot of work to be done here for a lot of managers. So let's have a look at that. How do we build specific sales skills? And we've put a whole range of them on the screen here. So relationships, ways that we can build specific sales skills are helping them get contact referrals, connecting personally with buyers, inspiring buyers to reach out for ideas and advice, building confidence and succeeding with executive level buyers. Needs discovery, being patient, allowing all the needs to come out before pushing solutions, because it's often the invitation we're waiting for in our needs discovery, where we get asked to share our ideas on possible solutions, that creates that organic development of those conversations. Conversations and communications, obviously, is a key one. Leading conversations with the right balance, planning, communicating, telling good stories, building excellent responses to RFPs is some of the key skills that we need to be coaching for. Solution crafting, how they present their solutions persuasively, how they are making the differentiation case for your offerings and making them more compelling, are areas that we can develop all of our sellers in terms of their skill. What about value case making? ROI, building a sense of urgency, inspiring confidence in the buyers that they'll achieve their desired results, making the case clearly so it's clear that your offering is the best choice. These are all areas that we can impact in terms of sales skill, which ultimately will impact sales performance. Advancing the sale, uncovering decision makers, overcoming objections, developing buyer champions with inside our accounts or with inside accounts that we're pursuing, organizing resources to win the sale. These are all skills that we can be coaching. Productivity is one. I think we've canvassed that. It's a skill that we need to be developing with our sellers. Negotiating, prospecting, we've talked about that. And then, of course, account management. Here's an interesting one. Selling skills in virtual selling. The amount of sellers that are telling us at the moment, it's going back to normal. The amount of buyers who are telling us at the moment, there's no way we're going back to normal. And back to normal means, a lot more face-to-face interaction for a lot of us in the business-to-business selling world. Buyers will ultimately dictate what that looks like. Some of our selling processes may influence that strongly because we simply can't engage virtually. But a lot of buyers are dictating that they still prefer virtual contact. Now, I'm just going to throw it out there. Whether you agree with that or not doesn't really matter. Whether your sellers agree with that doesn't really matter, because what the buyer says and what the buyer wants will happen. So how do we combat that? If we've got a face-to-face selling team who is great, pressing the flesh, jumping into conference rooms and building, a really great experience in buying, yet we've now been forced through various reasons, and we've got big global clients of ours who are in the pharmaceutical game, who are in the medical game, where because of current COVID conditions, they can't access their buyers still, and they must engage virtually. And some of them are really struggling. Some of them are 15, 20-year veterans of pounding the pavement and pressing the flesh and being in front of people. And they are struggling literally day and night. Their results have changed because virtual selling is a skill. And it's a skill that is different from face-to-face selling. And it's one of those skills that is something that, whether we like it or not, we need to develop in our selling force. So our sellers have the ability to do both, and do both really well to realize their goals and ultimately your team's performance goals, and ultimately help your company achieve its performance outcomes through the way in which you sell. Virtual selling is a skill that should not be ignored, because you'll never know when that skill, or set of skills, I should say, should come in handy. It is one area that we are seeing is making a significant difference in terms of those who can turn up and do it versus those who can't. We need both. Great opportunity in our sales coaching to develop that skill, because the buyers will dictate that we will need both. Sales coaching tactic number 9, supporting all new hires. One of the most important times of any new hire is their first day, their first 30 days, their first 90 days. That often has the biggest impact to their first year retention in the role. And for those of you who have hired or have a revolving door of sellers coming into your organization, you need to think about, how do I set up day one, the first 30 days, the first 90 days, to really drive a stronger connection to our company, who we are, what we do, how we do it, and then how we make sure that we deliver that throughout our coaching conversations. So how do we support all new hires? So sellers with 5 or less experience. So, they're 240% more likely to be a top performing seller when they have an effective manager. And so making sure that we have crafted ways in terms of day 1, 30 and 90, and then ongoing sales coaching is incredibly effective in reducing costs of turnover and retaining key people. It's another area that we can focus our sales coaching on. And last one, access to status quo and creating a coaching plan. So let's go back to that model that we showed you earlier. What I did, what I'm doing, do. And here's how we can bring that to life in a very simple and effective coaching plan. So you'll see here, what should my team be doing differently is the first question that we ask sales coaches to prepare for. And then how will my coaching be different? So what will I change to make my coaching more effective or most effective? What are the success metrics? How will I measure progress and know that I'm successful? So the great thing is that we have everything that you need in a free resource called How to Build a Sales Coaching Plan. That brings together and focuses on all of those top 10 sales coaching tactics that we know work, that we've brought to life together today. We've looked at setting a regular ongoing coaching rhythm, leading valuable coaching conversations, motivating sellers, helping them build a goal and action plan, focusing on prioritizing productivity in both self and team, advising on specific sales situations, creating a seller development plan, specific sales skills, supporting new hires, and creating a coaching plan for me as a sales coach to go and effectively lead the change that we want to see through our coaching activities. So, as we said, in a lot of what we've talked about here, there is a significant difference between the performance and achievement of top performing sales managers versus the rest. And as I said, I would strongly recommend you grab a copy of the latest top performing sales manager report, because it has a profound difference. And one of the most profound differences you'll see in that report is on win rate. It's the most talked about measure that we know as sales leaders that we're seeking to improve, is to always be improving our win rate. Go and have a look at page 27 in that report and have a look at the impact that all of this has in terms of win rate in your selling organization. And I think the case for you to change could not be any clearer. On that note, we're here to help. I think that's fairly obvious from what we've shared with you in the last 50 minutes or so. We're a generous brand. We keep giving. There is tons of free resources on our website to help every sales leader become a more effective sales coach. And of course, if you want more specific support, reach out for a consultation. I am going to go and have a very big sip of water, and I'm going to hand it back to our wonderful host, Phil. Hope you've found and received value from our time together today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. Do you think you have a moment for Q&A, or are we wrapping it up now? Okay.
We can do a few Q&A. Let's go.
Okay, here's our first question for you. What is the best ratio of a great sales coach to number of sales reps?
Oh, that's a great question. So the ratio would be purely dependent on what else you have to do as a sales coach. If your role is purely sales coaching, then I'd say, focused effort and a blend of low touch or high touch sales coaching activities. I mean, you could go 8 to 10 in terms of ratio, depending on what else you have to do. What we tend to find is that if a sales manager has lots of responsibilities beyond just sales coaching, which I know a lot of you listening do, most sales manager to seller ratios that we see work is usually in the 1 to 5 space. So it really depends on whether you're a dedicated sales coach, in which you could possibly double that. If you're a sales manager, most typical sales managers, you don't want to be having too many direct reports if you want to be an effective sales coach. And if not, then you need to get together with your other sales leaders and figure out, how do we deliver effective sales coaching if we've got higher ratios than that? So I hope that helps. Phil?
Okay, another question. If the sales manager don't have these coaching skills, what suggestions do you have for building them? The coach question per se.
First of all, I'd take what we've, I believe we're sharing the recording. I would take and relook at what I've shared today, and all of those practical tips after I've talked about the research outputs and giving you those practical tips that you can start now becoming an effective sales coach with what I've just shared today. The other thing is that sales coaching plan. There's a lot of, in that free guide, there's a lot of reinforcement of what we've covered today, built off the research in terms of helping you become a top performer. And I would download that plan and use that as a starting point to answer a lot of your questions around how I become a top performing sales coach.
Next question. What would you recommend is the most important of these 10 for brand new sales managers?
Wow, I was a brand new sales manager. I think start from the top and take a screenshot of what's on your screen right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be executed in this order, but it would be a really good starting point in terms of a very simple plan. Also download the sales coaching plan to get started. Which one? I would set a regular ongoing coaching rhythm. That's one of the hardest things to get in play. You're getting in other people's calendars. I'm not allowed to say diaries, but I will say diaries because I know a few people are laughing right now. You've got to impact other people's calendars. So you need to do that. You need to think about how you're going to approach that, get that regular ongoing coaching rhythm in play. Then define what are the types of conversations I'm going to be having at each of those coaching events in order to bring value. Most importantly, what are the questions? What are the good coaching questions I'm going to be asking to make sure that that learning through that coaching dialogue, that learning is coming through from the seller, and you're not having to do a lot of the telling. So I hope that answers, or at least gives you a starting point in terms of your journey. Phil?
Andy, from your perspective, what are the most powerful inner motivators for a seller to perform on a higher level, considering that money is a temporary incentive only?
Great question. Progress. The number one most important motivator for not just humans, but especially sellers, is a sense of progress in terms of what they're doing. What difference does selling what they sell make? Who does it impact? What value does it bring? And how, by continually doing that, does that progress something in some form beyond just making money? You're exactly right. Money is a very temporary motivator. And there are a lot of money-driven sellers, but once that money has been realized, they're still looking for motivation. And that ongoing motivation can come from a sense of progress in terms of what they're doing and the fact that they're moving forward, and they're moving forward towards something that's meaningful. Phil.
Okay, another question. What is a good cadence for sales training or sales meetings?
Depends once again. We get the opportunity to go into and have very specific conversations around sales meeting cadence, sales meeting content with our clients, not knowing everyone's individual situation. A sales meeting, depending on how fast things change, things evolve, and the volume of important content that we can share and development opportunities we can offer, it could be weekly or fortnightly. I wouldn't go anything beyond that in terms of cadence of sales meetings. What was the other part of the question? Did I answer that?
Yeah, I think you answered. Sorry.
Okay.
I've already.
It sounds like there's a few. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we have several. How quickly can new manager coach become excellent, productive, a role model and leader?
As quickly, the speed will be determined upon the execution of what we've spoken about here today. The quicker you put into practice these 10 tactics, the quicker you're going to become really good at doing this. Prime the pump. You just need to keep priming and getting this activity and all of this, your environment set up, and then start practicing and doing and executing and refining, and you'll start to see that flow of performance improvement eventually follow. But just start doing and executing. And I've seen sellers completely turn around teams by purely focusing on becoming a great sales coach. And so that they made that their focus. And they applied the productivity aspects of what we spoke about here today in more detail. As I said, if you really want to deep dive into that productivity foundation piece that underpins a lot of these great sales leaders, sales managers, I'd read that Not Today book. It'd be a really cheap investment in something that will give you huge benefit.
Well, thank you, Andy. It looks like that's the time we have for all the Q&As. We appreciate all those who sent in their questions, and we'll do our best to answer those on another occasion, maybe. So
We'll do that. Thanks, Phil.
That concludes our webinar and Q&A for today. Just a reminder that we recorded this event. You'll receive an email with links to watch the recording and download a PDF of the slides by the end of this week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.